I'm Father Terrance, and in conflicts, typically there are two extremes. There are the attackers, those who are outwardly aggressive. So the I want things done my way type of people, that's their attitude. Then there are the avoiders, those who are inwardly passive. I want peace at all price is their attitude. Repeating these unhealthy patterns of attacking and avoiding, which stem from childhood, they actually keep many people from being able to diffuse conflict. A wrong way of thinking in this is often this: I'm afraid of conflict because it reflects badly on me. To feel secure and significant, I have to try to get rid of conflict either by conquering it or compromising or by avoiding it. A right way of thinking would be this: conflict is a natural result of living in a fallen world with different types of people. My sense of security and significance is based on my dignity as a child of God. It's based on my identity in Christ and in the Lord's infinite love and his acceptance of me. So the solution is not reacting or retreating when conflict occurs. The solution is responding to it appropriately. Where do people's fighting styles come from? Typically, they come from different places. One, it could be temperament and personality types. So some of us have a natural tendency of being outgoing or reserved, being compliant or defiant, being aggressive or passive. Two, they also come from experiences from childhood. So words that we heard, behaviors that we saw, messages received about who we are, what we do, how to respond to conflict. It does help to be able to identify the messages you received growing up in your family and evaluate them. Say, were these helpful or harmful? How are they still impacting me now and in my interactions with others? Another source of a fighting style are physical factors too. For example, your brain chemistry may be affecting the way you respond to the rush of adrenaline experienced during times of conflict. This is why it can be helpful to get a thorough medical checkup if we're not sure why we're reacting the way that we are. Another source of our fighting style is basically learned behaviors from the example of significant people in our life. We may be subconsciously modeling our behavior after those who attack or avoid. With time and effort and grace, what was learned can be unlearned. In her book on conflict resolution, June Hunt lists 3 types of attackers and 3 types of avoiders. First, we'll talk about the attackers. Attackers want to feel significant, primarily. And there are 3 types of attackers. There are wolves, there are serpents, and there are hornets. The wolves are also known as dictators. What's their aim? Their aim is to feel powerful. Typically, they grew up feeling insignificant in their family, so they are driven by the need to feel significant, and they find destructive ways of trying to meet that need. Children who feel powerless can develop aggressive tactics to overpower others. These people can be fiercely competitive because they want to feel like winners. They can also be dictatorial because they want to feel powerful. They seek to control everything and everyone. They judge the actions and the motives of others. They refuse to listen to opposing opinions with an open mind. They use criticism to cut people down. They also engage in power plays too. The message that they send is this, give in to me or I will come after you. What are some helpful tips for engaging with these people? Well, first, let them have their own say without interrupting them. And get their attention with praise. That can help. But hold your ground in a discussion. So match strength with strength. However, avoid arguments and don't put yourself down when talking to them. If you match strength with strength, they're more likely to respect you and be open to listen to you. The second type of attacker is what's called a serpent or maybe a backbiter. What's their aim? Their aim is to feel superior. So they grew up regularly experiencing put-downs and belittling comments. They became driven to overcome feelings of inferiority. That's essentially the need that they're trying to get met. They can become behind-the-scene backbiters that strike when you're not looking. They use criticisms, they use put-downs, they start false rumors, they pretend to have done nothing wrong. All the while, they're gathering allies in their attack. The message that they send is pretty clear. Don't mess with me, or you will regret it later. What are a few helpful tips in engaging with these people? Well, be aware of their power to destroy. Catch them when they lie as well. Also, it could be helpful to enlist someone to help you confront them in private. Expect them to deny what they've done, but don't let them get away with the attacks. The third type of attacker can be labeled as a hornet or a fault finder. What's their aim or goal? It's to feel valuable. They grew up being told children are to be seen, not heard, or their opinions or their feelings were virtually discounted. So they become driven by the need to feel valuable, to be heard and understood. Children who don't feel valuable typically can develop a negative attitude towards life in general. Making constant complaints is a way of getting the ear of others, and so they often make negative statements about everything, blaming others, pulling others into disagreements, even delighting in misery. The message that they send is this, don't get on my bad side, or I'll talk about you too. What are some helpful hints in engaging with these people? Well, learn to cut off negative conversation and respond only to what's important. Also confront them when they start playing games, but encourage them to look at solutions instead of always making negative statements. And be careful about reinforcing their complaints. It's often not wise to do that. So those are the attackers who are looking for a sense of significance. Now we'll talk about the avoiders. In conflict, those who are avoiders want to feel secure. And there are three types of them. There are the tortoises, the chameleons, and the weasels. The tortoise, first of all, also known as the retreater, retreats. Why? The aim is to feel safe. They often grew up in homes with unrestrained anger, unresolved criticism, little of what's positive. So they become driven for the need for peace. Children who don't feel safe typically make being safe their life goal. They turn inwardly and emotionally wall themselves off from others. They play dumb. They give one-word answers. They withdraw. They seek security, make you feel guilty if you're asking questions. So the message that they send is, don't confront me because it won't do you any good. What are some helpful hints in engaging with these people? Well, ask them questions that can't be answered with just a yes or a no. Seek to also get them to talk on a feeling level as well, too. But hang in there until you get a response from them. And try to be positive, not critical with them. And also, don't answer for them. Let them answer for themselves. The other type of avoider is the chameleon, also known as the obliger. Their aim is to feel accepted. So they grew up with criticism and negative feedback from significant adults, and they didn't receive much compliments or praise. So they're often driven by that need for acceptance. They can become people pleasers, doing whatever is necessary to make everyone happy so as not to be criticized or rejected. They avoid making decisions. They act innocent. They appear nice, agreeable. They recoil from making commitments, and they downplay differences. The message that they send basically is that if I'm nice to you, you owe it to be nice to me back. I'm nice to you, please be nice to me. What are some helpful tips for engaging with these kind of people? Well, make it okay for them to disagree. It's okay if we disagree. We don't agree, that's okay. Help them to identify priorities and also try to learn their hidden fears, but reinforce their decisions too. Encourage them. But don't accept their yes as complete agreement because it might be just their way of trying to be agreeable. So be careful about that aspect. The last type of avoider is the weasel or the twister, one who twists everything. What's their aim? It's to feel confident. They grew up with overprotective, controlling parents a lot of times. They had no firm boundaries or personal accountability for their actions, so they're driven by a need for confidence. They lack courage. They are shrewd and evasive rather than being honest. Why? Because they want to stay out of trouble. They can use clever devices and defenses. They can sidestep issues. They can twist and bend the truth. They can blame others. They can avoid I statements. They don't want to put the blame on them. The message that they send is, I'm not going to get pinned down. You're not going to pin me down in anything. What are some helpful tips for engaging with these people? Well, avoid accusing them. Don't get drawn into arguments, but be strong and immovable in what you're saying. Don't give in. Also, be forgiving with them too. And try to be consistently encouraging at the same time, because they do need positive encouragement. Fallen human nature tells us that we are to respond in kind to others, meaning insult for insult, blow for blow. Instead, Jesus tells us to respond in spirit, not in kind, being spirit-controlled rather than situation-controlled or emotionally controlled. And in her booklet, June Hunt uses the New Testament letter of St. Paul to Philemon to illustrate 7 simple principles for facing conflict. In that letter, you see these principles in dealing with conflict. Number 1, humility. So don't use your higher position to take advantage of those in a lower position. Number 2, integrity. Be honest about the problems. Number 3, vulnerability, which also means sharing your heart feelings. Number 4, submission. Don't force an action that's not under your control. Number 5, optimism. Trying to expect the best of the other person, not the worst. Number 6, faith. Remembering the sovereign hand of God in all things. Remembering his providential hand, how he governs things, everything. And number 7, exhortation. Choose your words carefully when talking with others and engaging in conflict with them. Be careful with what you share. Also, be discerning regarding the accuracy of the critical words that you may receive of others. Be open to the slightest kernel of truth when you're criticized. Be willing to consider the criticism. If it's true, this person might actually be someone who the Lord is asking to speak this to you. Maybe they're sharing something that the Lord wants you to hear. Be able to receive criticism without being defensive, which includes admitting again to any truth in the criticism, agreeing when you are in error, and even at times asking for further correction if necessary. Be determined also to speak well of your critic. Don't speak negatively of them. And be dependent really upon God's perspective of you to determine your sense of worth and value, not so much being dependent upon the opinions of others. And I hope these thoughts on the nature, just a few thoughts essentially on the nature of understanding conflicts are helpful. Please feel free to leave any comments you'd like to in the section below. And if you want more information about how to deal with conflict resolution, I highly recommend June Hunt's booklet, her Hope for the Heart booklet, bearing that same title, Conflict Resolution. It's very insightful in many ways. I'm Father Terrance. Ave Maria, thank you so much for listening. Please keep me in your prayers. I'll keep you in mine as well. God bless you and take care.